trees. Hi everybody, it's Miranda from the Queen's Botanical Garden. As part of QBG at Home today, we're going to take a little trip. Did you know that every tree planted in New York City has its own story to tell? Today, we're going to look at one tree very closely, and I'd invite you to also look around trees in your neighborhood. We've moved on to our next tree now. I'm going to hop up on its roots. This one here is called the London Planetree. I figured out the name of this New York City street tree by using my New York City street tree map. It told me it was the London Planetree, but also that it was the most common New York City street tree, so I celebrated a little bit. Since this is the most common New York City street tree, you may have noticed this one before. Have you? We even have it planted outside of the Main Street gate entrance at the garden. In the fall, it loses its leaves onto the street. One of the most notable features or characteristics about this tree that I could see better from far away was its enormous height and sprawling branches. I estimated it to be about 4 stories tall, which is about 40 feet. Now, on average, it usually grows up to 100 feet, so something was holding it back. But I could see obvious benefits because its sprawling branches full of leaves in the summertime would sequester carbon dioxide and provide a lot of shade to the street. Another thing I noticed when I got closer is that the roots of this London plane were huge. They had even cracked the sidewalk cement. Because it was growing in a cramped area, it was pressed to create more room for itself. This was probably why it hadn't grown as tall as it could. I also found this tree to have a really cool tree trunk. Can you see why? Yeah, look at all those colors on the tree trunk. Every tree has a layer called bark. That's that really dark brown sort of layer that you see on the very outside of this tree. I noticed that when I touched it, it started to peel off, and it seemed like many layers had already peeled. Not all trees will shed or peel their bark, but this one does. This is one of the ways you can identify it when you're walking around. Have you ever seen a tree that shed its bark before? You might remember a tree from the first episode, the American Basswood. Can you tell that one of these trees sheds its bark and the other one doesn't? As I moved around the London Planetree some more, there was even more irregular flakes of bark that were easily peeling off. This actually doesn't hurt the tree. In fact, it may be a good thing for the tree to lose its bark in this case. I found some inspiration in the trunk of the London Planetree and decided to make a bark rubbing. A bark rubbing is an easy way to take a snapshot or capture the tree trunk surface without any type of camera. Here's the steps. First, select a spot that you find interesting on your tree. This can be an area with many different textures. Next, tape or hold a piece of copy paper or construction paper flat against the bark. Third, take a crayon and turn it sideways and rub it over the paper surface. Keep rubbing. Do you see the tree trunk starting to appear on the paper? Do you notice any details that are captured? Lastly, you can add color and details that you noticed on your tree. I had seen a really beautiful tan and green surface, so I added those onto my drawing. Well, it looks like our time is up for today, but in the meantime, remember to comment below with your questions and your discoveries, and we'll look forward to seeing them soon. Thanks! See you at the next tree!